On Christmas morning, 1945, a mother stood in the snow, staring at a smoking pile of ash where her house used to be. 5 of her children were inside when it burned, but their bodies were never found. Not one bone, not one tooth, nothing. And over the next 40 years, the Sodder family became convinced their children didn't die in that fire at all, but were taken. This is the story of the Sodder children, one of America's strangest unsolved disappearances. It's December 24th, 1945, in the small coal town of Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder are Italian immigrants raising 10 children in a modest wooden home on the edge of town. George runs a small trucking business. Jenny manages the household. By local standards, they're doing well, respected, hard-working, well-liked. But George has one enemy. He's been openly critical of Mussolini and Italian fascism, loudly, publicly, in a community with strong ties back to Italy. He's made enemies. And just months earlier, a stranger selling life insurance had shown up at the house and warned him, almost like a threat, that his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed. George brushed it off. He shouldn't have. On Christmas Eve, the family is celebrating. 9 of the 10 children are home. The 2 oldest boys are away, but the rest, 5 girls and 4 boys ranging from age 2 to 23, are tucked into the house. Around midnight, Jenny hears a strange noise on the roof, like something being thrown or hitting the shingles. She checks the house, sees nothing unusual, and goes back to bed. At 1 a.m., the phone rings. Jenny answers, but it's a woman's voice she doesn't recognize, laughing strangely, asking for someone who doesn't live there. Odd, but she hangs it up as a wrong number. Then she notices the front door is unlocked. The curtains are open. Small details that will matter enormously later. She goes back to sleep. Just after 1 a.m., she wakes to the smell of smoke. The house is on fire, but the nightmare was only beginning. George and Jenny scramble. 4 of the children escape with them, but 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, ages 5 to 14, are still upstairs. George tries to get back inside. The stairs are already engulfed. He tries to break a window. He tries to find a ladder that's always kept by the house. It's gone, mysteriously moved. He tries to start his 2 coal trucks to use their headlights and climb up to the roof. Neither will start, even though he'd driven them himself hours earlier. In under an hour, the house is a smoldering ruin. No fire department arrives until morning. The nearest chief happens to live in town, but somehow the call takes hours to reach him. The official story: an electrical fire, 5 children burned beyond recognition, tragedy complete. But almost immediately, things stop making sense. Fire moves fast, but this fast? Witnesses said the entire house was engulfed in under 20 minutes. A fire hot enough to leave no trace of 5 human bodies, not even bone fragments, would need to reach temperatures far beyond a typical house fire. George Sodder actually tested this himself years later. He burned animal bones in a controlled fire for hours. They didn't disappear. They just became identifiable ash. The coroner's office ruled the deaths as smoke inhalation and fire, without a single physical remain to examine. Meanwhile, the family started collecting sightings. A woman running a hotel in another town swore she'd served breakfast to the missing children the very morning after the fire, before the story had even been in the papers. A woman driving past the burning house that night reported seeing several children in a car, one of them crying, parked along the roadside while the fire was still going, and a photograph. Years later, the family received an anonymous letter containing a photo of a grown man who bore an uncanny resemblance to Louis, one of the missing boys. On the back, a cryptic message. None of it was ever confirmed. None of it was ever fully dismissed either. George and Jenny became convinced their children had been kidnapped, possibly by figures connected to George's anti-fascist politics, possibly by organized crime, possibly something else entirely tied to those strange pre-fire warnings. They put up a billboard along Route 16 outside Fayetteville, a massive sign with the children's photos, offering a growing reward for information. It stood for decades. They hired private investigators. They wrote letters to the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover himself responded, but said the Bureau couldn't get involved unless local authorities requested it. Local authorities, for reasons never fully explained, didn't. George went back to the burned foundation himself and did something almost unthinkable. He poured several feet of fresh soil over the entire site, creating a makeshift memorial garden and preserving whatever evidence remained underneath, untouched, for future investigators. He never stopped searching. Neither did Jenny. She wore black for the rest of her life. They never found their children. George died in 1969. Jenny kept the billboard up until her death in 1989, 44 years after that Christmas Eve. So, what actually happened that night? Theory 1, a tragic accident. Faulty Christmas lights or wiring sparked a fast-moving fire, and panic, darkness, and small-town limitations meant the bodies were simply never properly recovered from the debris. Theory 2, revenge. George's public stance against Mussolini made him a target, and the fire, along with the missing ladder, the dead trucks, the phone call, was a deliberate cover for a kidnapping. Theory 3, something closer to home involving people who knew the property and its routines well enough to sabotage it precisely. Nearly 80 years later, no one has definitively proven any of them. The Sodder house is gone. The billboard came down decades ago, but the questions never did. Was it a horrific accident made worse by wartime-era neglect? Or did 5 children vanish into a conspiracy no one was ever able to crack? Let me know what you think really happened down in the comments. And if you want more real unsolved mysteries like this one, subscribe, because history still has secrets, and we're here to uncover them.